Monday night, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. And we have a first-time guest in our green room standing by. We are recording, we are streaming, and we have a chat room waiting. So let's switch to Studio 8 in. Well, good evening and welcome to pjnet.tv. Guess who our guest is going to be tonight? Now, this is just a picture of her, but in a moment, you're going to see the real deal, the real thing, in person, live, not animated, in 3D. Do you have your 3D glasses, folks? I am Coach Prasick, and it is a joy to do what I do. Monday through Thursday night, we get together here on pjnet.tv. Now, you might be watching this elsewhere, and if you are, we are so thankful. But we also want to remind you or let you know you can watch the same thing in our live chat room. Just go to pjnet.tv, best with a desktop or a laptop, okay? Well, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Perhaps you have heard of Cynthia Mendenhall, but in case you haven't, we're going to introduce her to you right now. And she is standing by, and she is... well, she knows that her daughter is watching, so she's a little nervous about it, okay? But I want you to take note of the picture on the back wall and the color of her clothing and her scarf and her lipstick and everything, because I was doing the dry run with her earlier today, and this was not the case. So, Cynthia, you've got everything ready, and you had all your notes ready, and I told you to not use them. So, what you been doing lately?
So here we go, right?
No, I did have a question for you, actually. Folks, when I have a guest come on, especially first time, I like to have them email me some kind of bio to introduce. And so she sends me all these book cover titles and all that in her bio. And Cynthia, I just have to ask, why is the word spunky splattered everywhere that your work is signed with it? That's like a thumbprint. Spunky, spunkiest, spunkier. Where did you pick that up?
Well, the more you get to know me, you'll see that I am pretty much Miss Spunky. Let me explain that to you, though. So a lot of times people think of the word spunky, they think of kind of out there, wild, loud, kind of a little too much. We describe cars as spunky, or maybe earrings can be a little spunky. But the actual dictionary definition of spunky is courageous and determined. And when I kind of caught on that, I had always been called spunky, and it wasn't it wasn't a compliment. But when I landed on the idea of spunky being courageous and determined, and when we are courageous and determined, and we put our hope in Christ, I think anything is possible. Like anything is possible. And there have been times that I have been extremely courageous, but I maybe haven't been determined or didn't really have a direction. And then there have been times that I've been extremely determined, but I just don't have the guts to follow through. So putting those two together is the dictionary definition of spunky. So yeah, one of my books is Spunkify Your Life, and the other one is Spunkier Yet. And I am Miss Spunky Hope.
Well, I really thought that the word spunky is just used in the vernacular and the culture. You mean to tell me it's actually in the dictionary? If I were playing Scrabble, we could actually use that word, and it's legal?
Yes, and now you know how to spell it.
It's funny, people invent words when they're playing Scrabble. Have you ever done? I don't know. Some of the people watching this may not even know what the heck we're talking about. Remember Scrabble? Remember that game?
Well, Scrabble is my favorite game. It's always just like a reach from me, and it's something that my daughter and I do a lot together. And other family members think it's incredibly boring, but yeah, I've even taken Scrabble games with people in the middle of the night to IHOP, and just play our game at an IHOP.
I know the feeling. You use the word spunky to bridge courage and direction. Give us an example, hope even from your own life, if you're willing to, where you had one but not the other.
Okay. I think about 2000, year 1999, 2000, I wanted to write. And I would literally sit and write in my journal about wanting to write, but I had no idea what I was to write. I had no idea. I had no direction. I had, the determination. I was pretty courageous. I just didn't know what to do. And so that was an example. And it took about 10 years before God was ready to really call me into that. And, when God calls you there, it kind of sticks.
Now, during this time, that I would say that when you said that, what came to my mind is there is a difference between moving around and moving ahead.
There is. There
Okay.
is.
Now, 10 years ago, you were trying to sort this out. 10 years ago, you were a life coach. So your testimony is that you were coaching people while not knowing.
Now, so yeah, 2000 was when I wanted to be a writer. I became a life coach in 2011.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, yeah, and
Once
I
you
didn't
figured
really
it
start.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Gave myself some time. But yeah, so a lot of people I feel like just need a little assistance, actually, I think we all know the answers. We just sometimes need to hear ourselves say it. And so, a good coach will just let you say what you already know and kind of discover your own path.
Well, I have some opinions about life coaches. Okay.
Uh-oh.
And well, I figure if I have them, maybe others do. Let's clear them up.
Okay.
I have seen many people who become a life coach or even a consultant is a similar profession. I'm a consultant now. And my immediate thought when somebody says either of those two, until proven otherwise, I assume that they've been fired or somehow lost their job and they haven't found a new one yet.
Okay. Or they've become an expert in their field.
Well, how do you look on social media and someone's portraying themselves as a life coach. They're 29 years old. It's like, really? Tell me about your
Right.
experience with.
Well, I did 9 months of training. I had a certifying exam, but there's nothing there's no like super standard. So basically, coach, you could say tomorrow, I'm a health coach, and hang out your shingle. And, as good as your marketing is how successful your practice will be. But life coaches, when they do it right and they're trained correctly, they really do and are able to accomplish a lot. And so there is a place for counseling and therapy, and that's really important. In extreme cases, I'm not trained and I can't deal with those people. But what happens in therapy so often is that we start looking back and we're just looking back, and we spend 3 or 4 years deciding why we are the way we are. And I mean, it's always your mom's fault anyway, right?
Bad potty training. Yeah, bad potty training experience. Yeah.
But when we look at life coaching, it's easier to say, okay, this is where you are today. This is kind of what you're presenting with. Now, where do you want to be? Let's go there. Let's build that bridge. Let's figure out the steps. Let's do what's necessary to get you where you want to be from where you are right now. It doesn't matter. The past is the past. Well, let's get going to where we need to be.
Well, we're in kind of a similar trade in that sense. So let me have some fun with this. In your opinion, thinking about psychological therapy, a psychologist or psychiatrist, you're right. There tends to be too much backward looking, and I think it's based on the presupposition that there's something back there I'm dragging anchor. There's something there holding me back. I would argue that what is holding most people back is themselves. And what do you think?
I think a lot of people experience fear even when they can't express it. They can't move forward because they have so much doubt. So I think it is themselves, but it's all of those emotions inside themselves. is to get over. And so they go to figure it out, and sometimes never do.
Have you heard my lecture on fear? Straight from Zig Ziglar. We spoke earlier today, folks. You know that I'm a fan of Zig Ziglar. He taught me this. You are born with 3 fears. Fear of falling, fear of darkness, fear of a sudden loud noise. All other fear is therefore learned. And I think when people, I believe what is holding people back is fear, in large part. Now, what is the origin? Since we've learned it, if you accept that axiom, that we've learned these fears, where did we learn it from? Does God teach us to have a spirit of fear?
Oh, absolutely not. Quite the opposite is true. But I just think life and experiences. I think we learn a lot of fear in elementary school. The fear of rejection, the fear of not, and the fear of not being enough. That happens on the playground. And so then we carry those. And then I think what happens is when we establish those fears, then we kind of go through life trying to prove that they're correct. And you're always going to see what you're looking for. And so if you're looking to like for any sign of being rejected or not being enough, then I mean that's what you're going to find. And so then we just build and continue building the case of those fears, and they get big and burly. And sometimes we don't even realize until we're into our adult years how much of that baggage we carry.
Well, you say we, and I concur, but who do you think is the author of that self-talk that says you're not good enough?
Oh, I think that's a direct result of the enemy of our soul.
It is.
Because
he was referred to as an accuser.
Yes. And who else is that? If we completely shut our lives down and make them small and really, just never live up to our potential, who does that benefit? It doesn't benefit our families. It doesn't benefit our coworkers. It doesn't benefit, it doesn't benefit God. Who's it going to benefit? If we completely shut down our lives into nothing, small, little, comfortable, sweet lives, it benefits the enemy.
In walking through life, I want to kind of segue to a new topic here.
Okay.
Life can be tough. Life has what you call storms.
Yes. I compare life's storms to the storms that we experience in the natural. So, a hurricane is interesting because a hurricane is coming for 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 days. And you know what? They never know where it's really going to hit. They never know when it's going to hit, or they never know the impact of that hit. And so I think that we encounter storms in life that end up being more like a hurricane. It's the diagnosis. We don't know how it's going to turn out. It's the financial misstep that we're just waiting for things to like implode. Tornadoes look more like you go to work on a Monday and they say, we really don't need you anymore. And so you have a loss of job, or perhaps you're driving home from work and you have a very serious life-threatening accident. Those are more like tornadoes. Tornadoes come without, maybe a 2-minute warning sometimes. And shoom, and there they are. So I think that we have those types of storms in our lives. We have to learn how to get through them, how to recover from them. I like to talk about, if I may, a hurricane simulator that I was in. It's fun. If you're ever in a touristy town or a really big shopping mall, look for one. They just look like an old glass phone booth. It's hilarious. For $2, 2 minutes in a hurricane simulator. The speed of wind tops out at 78 miles per hour. Okay, it's a hoot. It really is. You go in, you close the door, you push the great big green button. Okay, and it just starts accelerating. The wind is unbelievable. Like you're cheeks start blowing. I felt like my earlobes were flopping. Your hair is just up on top of everything. And I mean, like it blew like the jacket off of my shoulders. I mean, and I had to lean into the wind to keep standing. I was there myself with turns. I wasn't there by myself. Thank goodness I was with older people, so they didn't video that. But, you know, it was all I could do to keep my feet grounded. But here's the thing. At any moment that was too much, there was a really large red emergency button right beside the go button. And all I had to do was hit stop. Now, I didn't, but I've seen it done. And what happens is the storm doesn't stop immediately. The storm, like it goes from 78 to 76. So where if you hit the emergency stop at 60 and say I can't do this anymore, it doesn't stop. It starts stopping. And so it'll go 59, 58. So the wind, the storm is still there, but you have hope because you know that it's stopping. And I feel like sometimes when a natural storm comes, I lived on the East Coast for enough years to get a couple good hurricane stories in. But when those storms come, in the natural and in our life, I think we're always just looking for that emergency stop button. And, you know, wind of hurricane force doesn't have an emergency button. And a lot of times our storms in life really don't have an emergency button either. But I have a thought that there might be a little hint of an emergency button when we face these storms. I guess if I look back, I've been pretty lucky. I've been pretty fortunate. I haven't had a lot of major storms. But when we look at the major storms in our lives, like those category 4 and 5 storms of life, I think that it's devastating enough that it kind of divides our life. Okay, so then everything from that point on is before the storm and then after the storm. And so it's almost like we create eras based on those serious storms. And so I'm not really good with like dates and numbers and all like lots of details. But here's one of my storms. On August 4th, 1985, my father, who was 45 years old, went into the hospital unexpectedly. He died 26 days later. Like that was a storm that shook my family to the core. I mean, you wanna hit the emergency. You're looking for that emergency button to get out of that pain and that grief. Another very significant storm I went through was, again, I'm not really great with dates and numbers, but July 6th, 2006 is the day that I found out that my husband of almost 30 years had opted out of the marriage. Man, that devastates you. It knocks your feet out from under you. It knocks the wind out of you. You're just, barely able to function. And so in those type of storms, we have to look at like, what do we do? How do we recover? Is there an emergency? Is there a way we can push to like make sense of it? And I would kind of suggest that there is a button. Now, it doesn't like solve all, but it starts to lessen that storm. It stops a lot of the chaos and the craziness that's in your head. And so I would suggest, whether you're at the beginning of a storm, in the middle of a storm, or if you're still like recovering or years out from that storm, Psalm 139 is one of my absolute favorites. And it's like the red emergency button, because Jesus is there. He's with us. And that's what is needed more than anything. That verse says, Psalm 139:5 says, "You go before me, you follow me, and your right hand is upon my head." So nothing in our future is going to surprise him, ever. It all comes through him. Nothing in our past, he's not confused or surprised by anything in our past. But listen, that right hand, that hand of power, that hand of authority, like it sits on my head. And if I'm willing to be directed, I feel like sometimes I'm sure a toddler who's going through a crowd. God, just lead me here and there.
Okay, Cynthia, if you can hear me, mute your video button just for a moment, and I'll cue you up. I will tee up something new. If you can hear me, she may not can, because we seem to have a connection issue. It's been kind of lingering out there, you know. We're almost out of time. I wanted to mention that Cynthia is the author of more than one book, but the book that the cover she sent me, Spunkify Your Life. I bet you could go to Amazon and find that. So I think we've kind of lost Cynthia. So what I'm going to do is I am going to switch us out of here because we're out of time anyway. And what I wanted to mention was, sorry about that. There's the view of the desk that I sit behind. And folks, in just a few moments, Casper from Colorado will be coming our way as he does every Monday night at 9:30 Eastern Time. We've had a great time talking with Cynthia. Sorry that our connection kind of got garbled there toward the end, but she is a regular visitor in the pjnet.tv live chat room, and we look forward to seeing her there again and again and again. It's great getting to hear from her personally. I hope you got to know her. Folks, before I leave, I need to ask you to ask yourself a couple of very important questions. First, what is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? Secondly, when was that? Folks, if we are to make disciples as we are commanded, we are going to need the kind of boldness that says never be satisfied with our answers to either of those two questions.